When's the last time you heard when a white man from Melbourne was abusive to his wife, somebody said that's a cultural thing, those white guys in Melbourne. That's how they treat their women. Right? You don't really hear that very often, do you? And it's another way that racism distorts our understanding of the world in which we live. But it's also, back to my original point, it's about the other. The other is committing the violence. Somebody not like us. When we know, anybody who's worked in this field knows that guys just like us are the ones doing most of the abuse and the violence. Now this is very discomforting, because what it means is, if normal average guys, average blokes, are the ones who are doing most of the abuse, what does it mean to be average? What does it mean to be normal? What does it mean to be a normal Australian man in 2012? And this is what we have to be asking, right? This is the kind of question we have to be asking. But that doesn't make a lot of people very secure. It's like, oh, I don't want to really think about that. And what are the institutions of your society and mine that are helping to shape what is the norm for masculinity? What are the institutions? What are the religious institutions? What's their role in all this? What's the sports culture? What role does the sports culture play? What role does the family structure? What role does the education system? I mean, on and on. Everything needs to be under critical scrutiny, because we have these problems, and they continue, they persist, and they're pervasive. And I'm not overstating this, by the way. I mean, I don't know Melbourne. I've been here. This is my second time here, right? But I know that I guarantee you that the vast majority of women in this room, on a daily basis, order your lives around the threat of men's violence, even if you yourself haven't been a victim of direct violence. The mental checklist that women do on a daily basis to prevent yourself from being sexually assaulted. Some of you don't even think about it consciously. It's just like, this is what you do. You're a woman in 2012 in Melbourne. This is what you do. You put your keys, you hold your keys, in your hand. You don't use you don't use parking garages. You take don't put your drink down at a party. I mean, on and on and on. There's things that women do, right? Am I right? I mean, it's like in the air. The reality of the possibility of being sexually assaulted is a pervasive reality. We are not doing something right. There's something we're doing wrong, clearly, as a species and as a civilization. And we can do a lot better, obviously. We can do a lot better. One last reason why I have a problem with the term women's issues, to talk about gender violence, is how personal these issues are for men. And I'm going to go into that a little bit. These aren't just personal issues for women, but also for men. And what do I mean by that? Well, you know how many men in Australia have women and girls close to you who have been assaulted by other men? Do you have any idea how many men have wives who are rape survivors, who have daughters who are rape survivors, who have close women in your lives, in our lives, who have been assaulted by men in previous relationships or sexually abused as children? I mean, every single one of us, the answer is every single one of us have women and girls in our lives who have experienced these events, these crimes. You know how many issues are brought up in our families and our friendships and our relationships and our marriages as a result? You know how many men in this room have mothers who are rape survivors, who are domestic violence survivors, who have been harassed, abused, and mistreated? I mean, we can go on and on. I mean, on and on. There's obviously women in this room who have been abused and who are survivors of men's violence. I'm saying this because it's mathematically certain. And by the way, I can say this in any room in Melbourne. By the way, there are men here who are survivors. Because we know that, I know the States, I don't know the statistic in Australia, but in the States, something like 1 in 6 boys are sexually abused by the age of 18, usually by men and young men, sometimes by women. So there are likely men in this room who are sexual abuse survivors. This is a great sort of hidden but increasingly talked about reality in our societies, isn't it? The sexual violence men do to each other, not just to women and girls. But this is personal. The reason why I'm saying this is it's personal for men. Many of us, most of us, all of us, have this stuff in our personal lives, as well as some professional responsibility to address it. And one of the things that I always make a point of doing when I work with professionals, whether it's in the law enforcement, in the military, in the sports culture, in schools, whatever, is these issues are both personal and professional. We can talk about our professional responsibilities, yes, but let's also talk about our families, our humanity, the fact that we're people before we're whatever professional capacity we engage in. And the reason why it's important, I think, to talk about the personal side for men is that it just acknowledges men's reality. And also, it I think it helps to empower men to do the right thing and to speak up, because if men can feel these issues in our hearts, in other words, if we can make an emotional connection to the subject matter, like, this is personal for me, this is my family you're talking about, it's not just some abstract category of women out there in the world who are being assaulted, this is my sister, my daughter, my mother you could be talking about, then I think some men are going to find the guts, the courage, the strength to speak up, even in the face of their doubts and fears and anxieties about other men and other men's response to them. Because this is one of the great secrets. I don't know if it's a big secret, maybe it's a hidden secret, maybe it's hidden in plain sight. One of the great little secrets of masculinity is how so many men are. We're afraid of other men. We're afraid of each other. And not just physically, because some men are afraid of each other physically. And I appreciate that. There are situations where men are really intimidated by other men physically, and they want to say something or do something, but they won't. But I think the social anxiety is even more present. In other words, men who know that there's something going on that they don't like, but they don't want to say anything because they don't want to be seen as unmanly or soft or not one of the guys or not one of the mates or, taking the side of women in the battle between the sexes, on and on. So a lot of men, as a result, and now I'm not talking about just 16-year-old boys, I'm talking about adult men, a lot of us remain silent, even in the face of behavior that we don't accept or we don't like. We just like, that's not working, I'm not going to say anything. So I think that if men can make an emotional connection to the subject matter, we're more likely to take some risks. And that's what I'm asking and suggesting needs to happen. We need more men to start taking some risks. We need more men to start standing up. Even if you're going to get called names or guys are going to look at you a little bit sideways. So what? What does a leader do? A leader takes risks. A leader says the right thing, does the right thing, even when there might be negative consequences, because it's the right thing to do. Isn't that what a leader does?